I see some of you on already. Good morning. It is Wednesday Live. Thank you for joining me. Always so fun to be with you guys. Thanks for spending your morning with me. I appreciate it. Please let me know. I'm waiting for my comments to come on. It's always a little bit slow, so please get on here and tell me hello, that you are on. I see some of you are there already. And okay. Here we go. I see you guys. Hello, Debbie. Debbie is on. Sharon, Allison, Heather from Ohio. Hello, Heather. Debbie Hedges. Hello, Debbie. Andrea. Hello. Sheila. Hello. Hello to all of you guys. I have another new release, you guys. I can't wait to show you this tutorial. It's so fun. We've been on foundations for a few weeks now, which is also really, really fun. So we are going back to simple scenes, and I'll show you what those two new sets are in just a second. I want to give everybody a chance to get on here. Hello, Ruth Ann. She's on. Cindy, hello. Margaret, hello. Barbara from Michigan, hello. Thanks for being on with me, you guys. Thank you so much. I love seeing you all on here. Helen, hello. Debbie from Illinois, hello. Carol Stockwell, hello. Joanne, hi. Hello, Kathy. Hello, Bobby. Wow, you guys, thank you so, so much. Like I said, I am doing a new release this week, and which is why I'm on every week, is because I have so many tutorials for you guys. I got to show you how to do everything. And actually every new release set I could spend a month on. So I'm trying to get as much information on each one as I can, so that I can get you guys started on these new sets. Now, these two new sets that I'm showing you today, you get an early release for being on Facebook and joining me for a Watercolor Live. They aren't officially released until tomorrow when the newsletter goes out. However, you guys get to see them first, and they are available right now on the website. So you can go onto our website, you can check them out. Let me show you what they are. So here are the two new simple scenes. This one is called Rocky River. This one right here, you can see the sample down here. You always get a sample on the packaging, so you have an idea of what to do. And then here's the actual stamp right here. So this one is called Rocky River. This is the one we're gonna do today. It was a tough one, you guys, because I want to do this one too. This is the lake. This is Simple Scene Lake. It looks like such a simple thing, which is why it's called Simple Scene. But there are so many things we can do with this stamp. You'll be seeing this come back over and over again because I love this thing. And there are so many things we can do with it. So 5430 and 5431, you guys get to see these first, and you get to go to the website and get them first for being on Facebook with me. So let me show you the actual sample that we're going to do. So it is this one right here. So it's a big difference between the stamp, the actual stamp, you know, when you look at the black and white drawing, to what you can actually do with it. And this one too, there are so many things that you can do with it. They are just so much fun. They're so much fun, and I love them. I love them because they're different every time, and it's really fun to build these things. And you know, it sort of gives you a sense of being, you know, a watercolor artist. It really does, because these are your creations. And by the time you add everything into it, your little grasses and flowers and all of that, it becomes your own art and your own style. And even though you're starting with this foundation, this building block, you know, what it blossoms into is your style. And it just happens every time. It is just so fun. So let me say hi to a few more of you on here. Georgia is on. Hello. Georgia is a fabulous artist and instructor. She has been across the country teaching literally, you know, hundreds, probably thousands of students. She's been in this business for a long time too, so she's very talented. Okay, you guys, let me give you a heads up this time. I'm going to give away this sample again. I said that last time at the very end, so I'm going to give you a heads up. If you would like to have it, I'll do a drawing and I'll give it away at the, I'll choose a winner, and I'll wait a couple of days so that anybody who's watching this later, maybe can't get into the live, but is watching it later, I'll wait a couple of days and then I'll pick a winner. So I will be doing that again, and so I'll give you guys my sample. So, are we ready to get going here? These are available, let me say it, they're available right now. You can go to the website and you can get them right now. They are available to ship. So, okay, let's get going, you guys. It is 10:05, so let's tackle this project. I think you guys are gonna love it. It is so fun. So let me just switch things around here. Put my camera onto my workspace here and get myself lined up. Make sure that I'm in the screen. This is always the tricky part. I want to make sure everything's big enough so that you can see it, but then I'm not off the screen. Okay, here is our project. Now, let me just lay this on here so that you can kind of get an idea of how this is going to work. So you can see that black outline. That's actually the stamp right there. And we're going to add all these elements to it, and we're going to create this little scene. Now, depending on how you, what you put in the background will kind of determine whether this is, a large creek or a small creek or a giant river. That's kind of up to you with what you put back here. So I did another one really quickly, just to kind of show you. See this, I use this structure. See how much bigger it is than this one? That brings everything forward and shrinks this down. That makes this a much smaller creek, a much smaller river than this one, because this is set way back here in the background. So if you look at this sort of comes forward here. So you've got these three elements that are part of this simple scene. You've got this foreground that comes down like this. You've got another one that's set back just a little bit that goes behind and kind of turns this little river. And then you've got your background area. So it's sort of like 1, 2, 3. And everything is bigger on this side. And then depending on how large this river is, if you want this to be a huge river with a tiny, tiny little, scene back in here, you want to make this quite a bit larger than this. Okay, I hope that I'm not confusing you and making it more complicated than it is. It really isn't. It just kind of depends on what you want to set into the background. If you have something tiny, it's going to make this look bigger. Basically, that's the whole thing. And you can kind of see how these things come forward. These are in the foreground, so the rocks, everything is bigger than what is back here. Okay, and we'll get more into that as we go. So let me show you. The other one too. So here's the packaging for that. So this one is 5431. This is the one we're actually going to do today. And then this one is 5430. So let me lay this one on here. And the sample on the front, do I have this backwards? Here we go. The sample on the front actually has part of it. And I did that so that you could get an idea of how these things go together and how you can use parts of it. So I just used parts of this little lake, depending also on what you put in here. It could be a little pond or it could be a giant lake. So we're going to get into this one. There will be tutorials on that one as well as more tutorials on this one that we're doing today too, because there are just so many things that we can do with it. Just so fun, you guys. Okay, so let me tell you what else I'm using. I'm using the little mini foliage set. A few things in here. So this little background, the two trees and the foliage that go with it. And you can see, if you use this tree, how that would totally change. You could put the mountains in the background and you could put those little fir trees in. I mean, it would totally change the whole scene. So there's lots and lots of options. So these two, this and then the foliage that goes on here. In this set, I took this one, and it's actually in the foliage set. It's foliage set 3, but it works great as a little floral. So I just kind of put it on these little branches and made it purple. So there are lots of things that you can do with these too. The branches set, my favorite. We're going to use this one, this little guy. Foliage set 4, one of these. So this one, and then these two little accent grasses. I go to these all the time. They're so great to stamp over things. Because you've got a lot of lines in the way, and yet you want to get some more texture in here. And so you can stamp those tall grasses, those little accent grasses in between things. And especially when you're working with things like rocks, you know, doing things like rocks, you want to be able to stamp those grasses in between there and not be fighting the lines. So we're going to use this one and the two accent grasses. And by the way, you know, everything I'm using, the grasses, the foliages, these things can all be switched out. So if you're missing something, just pick a different foliage or a different grass or something else that you can use. In this one, the little grass, and I think that's all we're using from this set. So this tiny little grass right here. And then in the mini flower set, which one am I? These little guys. I haven't used these in a while, so I like to go back in and kind of pick things that I haven't used in a while. So we're going to use these little heart-shaped florals. But again, those are these little red ones in the foregrounds, and there are so many different things that you can use here. So if you don't have that, it's okay. It's totally fine. Okay, so let's get going here. I'm using my Canson watercolor paper. And let me just make sure that I am zoomed in as far as I can be to get up as close as I can. I think that's pretty good. And here we go. I will try to be careful to stay on screen, but I want to get this as big as I can. Okay, so let's stamp this image. Let me show you first what straight is. So these seem like little things, but they're really important. So this straight to line this one up, and these are clear, so they're much easier to line up. It's really nice to be able to see back here where exactly you are going to stamp this. So this is straight. This is the horizon line here, and it's straight. These sort of come down like this. This one comes down a little bit in the background, but this line here where the rocks are, that's straight. Okay, so that's how you would line this one up. You can use a positioner also. Let me just tell you that we sell these little acrylic plates in a larger size now. So they are on our website. This one is 2.5 by 3.5, but we now have them that are 4 by 6. And I believe they are $275 on the website. So you can stamp, you know, a larger image like this onto your acrylic plate. It's going to work the exact same way. It's going to fit right in the corner. It's just bigger so that it can hold a larger image. So no need to replace your positioner, but you can get a larger acrylic square like this one on our website now. So you can use a positioner too, just to make sure that it's straight. But if you get it on the block straight, you know, and then just make sure your block is straight on your paper, you're pretty good. Okay, so we're going to ink this now with our color combination. We're going to use the dark brown because we're doing the rocks, and we're going to do the blue, the dark blue. So the 565 and the 969. So these two. And then in the background here, because we're adding things into the background, we just need to know where these lines are. We don't necessarily want to fight them and have to stamp over them. So we're going to use something very, very light like this. This is an N89. It's a very light. It's just a super light gray so that we can kind of see where the lines are in the background just for placement. So I am going to stamp this or ink this, and then I'm going to stamp it off on a piece of scratch paper, scratch watercolor paper, because I don't want it to be too dark. And I'm just going over these areas where the rocks are. So not this area over here. This is the dark blue I'm putting on first. And I'm just using the side of the marker and just getting all these rocks here. And then I'm going to go right over the top of it with the 969. Right over the top. And then I'm going to go over the top of these lines here with this very, very light gray. And then I've got a piece of scratch paper here, so I can kind of stamp that off. Okay, that looks good. And now I'm going to just kind of huff on it a little bit. I might just put a little bit of this back in. This is so light, so I don't want to lose those lines. and just kind of huff on it and make sure that I have got this on here straight. Okay, that looks good. And if you're missing any of these lines in the background, never worry about that. You can also take your trusty pencil and just put those back in. It is no big deal. A pencil is your best friend. And you can just come in here and just kind of fill these in. Just like that, no big deal. Okay, so let's get going on this. The first thing we're going to do is put our little structure into the background, just so that we have our perspective down here as to what's going on. And I've got this little cabin, so I'm going to ink that and use my positioner so that I can see exactly where I want to put it. And I'm going to use the two colors again, so the 969 and the 565, so the dark blue. And then I'm going to stamp this off again. I'm going to first stamp it into my positioner, and then I'm just going to tap it off onto another piece of watercolor paper, and I'm going to set it right in here. So you can see that line kind of comes right through here, so I'm just going to take part of this line off with my thumb. Make sure it's straight. That looks pretty good there. And so just this little area here, I'm just going to take that off. So now you can see it's kind of following this hill a little bit. So we've got this in the background now. We can do the rest of it in a little bit. So let's work on our rocks and get this in. And then we can go over here and get this little structure done. So the first thing we're going to do is pull all that great color out of the lines. And we've got a good mix of color here. So we're going to be able to pull this out. Make sure that you have not dipped your brush too deep into the water. If you are just starting out and your brush is dry, you want to get it in there really good like this. Just get it really inked up and then really pinch it off so that you get the majority of the water out of it. And then next time you're just going to dip the tip and pinch it off. And you're going to go through here now and you're going to pull the color out of the lines. Now think about these rocks, before you get started, the last thing we want is to cross any lines. Okay, that's probably the biggest mistake, is to take your brush and cross any of these lines. You want to stay in each section where the lines are. Okay, that's really, really important because these are all going to give you dimension and it's going to give you character on these rocks. If you cross these lines, you're going to have a flat image and you're going to lose all this great contrast in here. So always start out in each section and just drag that color out, okay? If it's round like this one, this is a dome, it's going to have that light white area on the top. So even though these areas are really tiny, you want to just stay in each one. Things that are straight like this, you just want to kind of bring that color up. Keep it dark down here. Anything that has sharp angles like this, and don't overthink it, honestly. I probably, spend a lot of time on details with these things, but really, by the time you're finished, if you don't get a rock quite right or don't quite get the right amount of color on it, it's okay. With your full composition and everything, as it comes together, that's not a big deal. The biggest thing about this is the highlights on the top. That's probably the most critical thing, because if you don't have a highlight here, your image is flat. And we're building these stacks of rocks. So we're going to have something darker on the bottom. And you can see just doing that part, just doing it darker on the bottom and lighter on the top creates something three-dimensional. See how that just really made these rocks just kind of pop out and look like they're kind of stacked on top of each other? Everything is going to be darker at the bottom. As the light comes straight down, everything is darker at the bottom. So when you're pulling the color out of the lines, always start down here. And then drag your color up and be sure to leave that highlight at the top. You know, make sure your brush isn't too wet. Now this one, you see how flat this rock is? Leave the whole area light. It's pretty flat up there. This is going to be dark coming down. And just, you know, kind of soften the lines if you want to. We're going to put some more color into these rocks. But this is a really good place to start. Okay, so I'm going to grab my palette now. And I'm going to add some color to these rocks because if you look outside, and especially by a creek, the rocks have a lot of color in them. They've got kind of a mossy color. This is a number 27. It's kind of a yellowish, kind of an olive green. And anything that's just kind of an olive green like that is going to work. I'm going to use my other greens. This is the 177. So I'm going to try to do Kendra's trick here. Kendra is so good about this. This is a 027. And then let's put some brown in. This is the 969. And let's make sure it's on the screen. How's that sound? Let me move this over a little bit so you can see. Okay, and then let's take some blue. So here's the dark blue that we used to start. This is a 565. And we're going to put all of these colors into the rocks. Now this is really fun. Don't stress out about this. We're going to kind of just mix some of these things together. You know, a little blue, a little gray, a little brown. Just kind of mix them all together very lightly. And then take your tip and just kind of dab it on at the bottom where it would be the darkest. And I'm just taking a little bit and just putting it on. And it will also create some texture in these rocks so that they don't look super smooth. This is so fun, you guys, and it's not intimidating. It's not scary. It really isn't. And to start out, you know, what I would say to do is stamp this, just this part, the rocky part, and just do rocks for an hour. And practice adding the color to it. Practice adding the shadows in it. Practice adding a little of your color from your palette. And just kind of work on this area to start out with. Because if you can get this down, it is so fun. And it will make your projects look so much more realistic. And then I'm going to take a little darker color, so maybe a little more blue with this, and just kind of come down underneath and really make this dark in here. Right along the water, you know, that's going to be really dark. And more of a sharp line as they kind of hang down over the water. Let's take a little bit of blue now and just put a little of this in. And you can do, you know, as much as you want. You can make these rocks as dark as you want. And then if you want to, you can come in with your fine tip. This is the dark brown, the twin tone. And these areas where the rocks kind of come together, you know, that would be really, really dark, you can add a little dark color in there. And do you see the difference now between these rocks and these rocks? And by the time we add our flowers and our grasses and everything in, it's just going to look so good, you guys. This looks so good. Okay, so let's go through and do these rocks over here. And I'm just taking, you know, a little of this color, a little of this color, some of this, and just kind of spreading it out on my palette and just taking a little bit of different things here. Focus this, you know, where it's the darkest. So leave that highlight area. You can see these over here. The top of the rock is pretty light. I don't have a lot of texture over there. I'm kind of saving it for these areas that would be darker. And just kind of tap it in. Start really light. You know, if you're not sure, just start really light. You know, darker down here where, you know, these cracks are. Anywhere you see cracks like this, that's dark. It's going to be dark. And the greens, you know, I always think that, you know, where there's water, there's going to be some mossy green color on these rocks. And it's just really fun to add a little color because, you know, when there's a lot of space to color, you know, even stamping, it can be intimidating when there's a lot of wide open white space. And if you just go in here and just add some texture, it kind of takes that stress away. See down in here where these rocks are, this would be really, really dark down in here. Down in this little crack. And let's just put a little blue in here too, like we did on the other ones. Take your time, you know. Don't stress out about it. It's so much fun. And a little thing like this, you know, it's a really fun trick to learn. And it's going to make such a difference. Okay, so we can see our rocks are starting to look a little more realistic now. Love it. So let's go on and do our little structure here. And we're going to just pull the color out of the lines and just kind of drag this down. Now in my sample, I sort of made this white, but it looks really rustic, like it's been sitting out for a long time. So maybe it used to be white, but it's not really white anymore. So I'm just starting out really light here. Just kind of pulling this color out. Same idea is that you don't want to go over the tops of the lines. You want to stay in each little section, even if they're tiny. These little sections are all super tiny. So let's go through here and add some detail to the windows. This step always pops things out and makes it a little easier to kind of see where everything is. So I'm taking my fine tip, my little twin tone, and I'm just making some little detail windows in here. And this little one on the side also. So you can see how that just kind of pops everything out. And then I'm going to take my brown now, my brown twin tone, and I'm just going to go along this edge because it's really stamped really lightly here, and then along the side of the chimney here. I'm going to add some of this dark brown, so this is that dark brown, and I'm going to add some of this now to the roof line and try to stay in each section as you're adding this. Leave some white areas if you can. It's really tiny, so it's a little hard to do that, but if you try to stay in each section and add a little detail there. And the same over here on this one. And then we can just kind of do our same trick that we did on the rocks with the chimney. Now this side over here is in the shadow, so that's going to be really dark, and we can just put that in with the dark blue. That will also change everything. And this here, you know, on this side, there's a little shadow there, and we can come down here now and put that shadow in. Okay, now if you want to add a little detail to the roof, this is really fun to do. Take your fine tip, and you're kind of making a little zigzag as you go down. See that that little detail, and then you can do that over here too as you go. Let me kind of show you what that looks like a little bit bigger. So here's your roof line like this. You're kind of going down like this. So just a little zigzag, and the same over here as you go down. And even though it's tiny, it really adds a lot. Let me hold this up so that you can see. See that detail in there? It really adds a lot to do that. And you can take your fine tip and add, you know, a few of these little details back in too. You don't need to do a lot. It's just the idea. Obviously, we get the idea that this is a stone, a little stone fireplace chimney. There we go. And I would now just kind of mess it up so that it doesn't look too white. And just kind of, you know, pull some of this color down. And this is where you could add some detail. You could put some boards in, maybe with your pencil, and add some detail back in here. But it's just, these little structures are just so cute. They're just so fun to do. Okay, so let's keep going here. Let's put some background in. Now we're going to keep in mind that these little areas, you can see how they just kind of come up. And if it helps you to finish these lines, do that, because you can kind of get an idea now of where everything's going. Now this is coming in front of this little structure. So we're going to put something up on this hill. So we don't want too much detail back in here. And the same over here. We're going to put some detail. We're going to put some elements up in here. So we don't want too much detail back in here. So I'm going to just add some color to this hill back here. And I'm going to use my cool green. So that is this one, the 249. And I'm just going to put it down here at the bottom next to the blue. This is 249. And I'm just going to take some of this and the blue and just kind of mix it up really, really lightly, because we're going to be stamping some trees over this. So we're just going to kind of get this background in super, super lightly. And just kind of brush it in. Just follow the line and brush it in. You can always come back in and add a little more color to it if you want to. And you know, the way to make it lighter is just to add more water. And you're using watercolor paper, so you can add plenty of water to this. Be careful that you don't touch any of these dark colors, because they will bleed out on you. And then you could, you know, at this point, you could put some sky in. And I'm just taking the dark blue here and adding some water to it. And you could push some sky in. Don't overdo it with the sky. You know, it's really just kind of pushing it around. It's not strokes. If you use strokes, it tends to get out of control, and then it's really hard to end. So make sure you're using enough water, you know, as you're kind of pushing the sky around. And I just left some white spaces so that it kind of looks like clouds in here. And I'm keeping this pretty light because I want to put those trees in over the top. Okay, so let's keep going here. I'm going to let that dry a little bit. So let's go on and add some grasses and things to the foreground while this background is drying here. So let's start out with the little grasses, this little grass here. And I'm just going to use my, my warm green, so my 177, and just kind of stamp this in. And do you see where things are kind of open? It doesn't look like this rock is finished. All you have to do is just kind of stamp along that, and there it's finished. So where these areas, you know, and it looks like the rock is not completed, just add some grass to it. And just kind of push it in like this. You could put some grass along this hill, and see, that will bring this down. We can also do it over here. And put a little of this grass in here too. We could bring it, you know, all the way around just like this too. And then take our little brush and just pull that color out. Just nothing to it. Just kind of follow the lines. And I'm just kind of dragging it to the side a little bit. You don't have to color everything in solid. You know, that might be a hard thing to learn. It really, you know, because we tend to want to color every single area, you know, and complete the page. And if you want to do that, then I would say make a border around this and just keep everything contained into a square. You know, that's a good way to start too. So what I mean by that is use your masking tape and just create a boundary, and then you can pull all the color up to the boundary. And then when you take that tape off, you've got a square with your completed image. Okay, so let's keep going here. Let's put in the water. Let's do this. And I'm going to mix some color here with this water. So I've got some blue and some green. I'm gonna use that. I'm gonna put a little bit of brown in it and make it a little grayer. And you know, if you're not quite sure about the color, take a scrap piece of paper and just kind of look at it. And I'm gonna start here where the transition is. And I'm just gonna kind of bring this water around. Leave those white spaces, you know, leave some white spaces as you kind of bring this water around. This is kind of where that transition area is. And it looks like things kind of drop off and go down. So down here at the bottom, we're gonna go a little darker down here. It's a little bit more in the background, and then we're gonna leave just a little space here. Now you can make this water whatever color you want to. I just kind of grayed it up a little bit just because I usually just use the dark blue. And I thought, you know what, I'm gonna kind of mix it up again and show you guys a different way. Now I'm gonna take some blue and green and a little bit of this brown. And I'm gonna make a shadow here where these rocks would be. And you're gonna just kind of follow this line. You know, kind of along the shore. It doesn't have to be perfect. You're just kind of given the idea of it. And then in here where it would be right against the bank, we could add a little more green. Right here where it would just be hanging right over. This would be very dark in here. And I think I'm just gonna take my, my blue. And just kind of go around here and really darken that. So it looks like that's just kind of hanging over that water. And put this shadow just right along here. Don't stress out about this. This is not a big deal. And then down here at the bottom, we can make this a little darker and maybe a little more green down in here. And let's do a shadow here too. Kind of along this side, you know, where the rocks would be too. And these rocks too, you know, they're gonna kind of have a shadow down here. So let me hold this up so that you can see it. Kind of get an idea. And you can see I didn't color this whole stream in solid. You know, if you think about things that are moving, it's just like the highlights on the rocks. Things that are moving have some white spaces where the light is catching. And it sort of tells your eye that this is a little stream and it's moving. So you're getting the light, it's catching your eye, rather than all being solid and the same. That sort of tells you that it's straight. It's a straight flat image. Okay, so let's keep going here. Let's get this background in now. The sky is plenty dry. So I'm gonna take my cool green now. This is the number 249, and this little guy, which I love, from that little tiny mini set. And I'm just gonna stamp this now, kind of in the background. back like this. And then I'm going to take the foliage. This is the little foliage stamp here. And I'm just going to use the very top. Just the very top. So you can see where I inked that, just about half of it. And I'm just going to stamp it in front of this little cottage. And then kind of, you know, over here a little bit too. So let me hold that up so that you can see. See how I just stamped that in there? It's basically just texture. And then when we add the water, it just kind of all comes together. Just does its magic. This is another reason why we stamp things off, is because we don't want to have like a lot of lines here that we're fighting with. So if we stamp it off, it's pretty light. And by the time you add this foliage in here, even if you have the bottom of this little structure, it's going to wash out by the time you add this green in here. And I think I'll take some of my warm green now and just add a little of this in here. A little mix of green. And again, I'm keeping it pretty light because I still want to put these things up here on these little hills. You could also take some of this color and just dab in a little color here too. The same idea that we did with the rocks, you can just tap in a little bit of color here into the background. Okay, so let's put something else in here. Let's put some trees in here. I just love these little trees, so I always have to find a way to use them. And I'm going to use a piece of masking tape now. And I'm just going to mask off these areas here so that I'm not stamping over the top of everything. And I'm just going to cover this little structure here and stamp these behind that structure. So I'm going to use the dark brown and maybe put one in here, and maybe this one. Maybe we'll put one in here like this. And then let's add our foliage, the whole thing this time. And maybe, let's see, we did that cool green in the background. Let's do the warm green. These trees don't take much. That's why I love this. I love this foliage so much, because it doesn't, it's like 1 or 2 taps and you're done. And it goes both directions. And we're just, you know, we're building this little scene, and it's just so fun. And, you know, you're using these same elements over and over again. I mean, I've used these little trees so many times, you get really good at stamping them. That's why it's a really good idea, especially if you haven't done this before, is to take these stamps and stamp them just a bunch of times before you try to put a whole composition together. You know, and kind of get this down. We can take our fine tip now. You can take your fine tip and add a few more little branches in here. That's also really fun to do. You know, we don't want it to look like a stamp. So whatever you do to kind of break it up so that it doesn't look like a stamp, that's a win. Okay, so let's come back over here and let's put our details in on the front part of this little composition. So I'm going to add some of these accent grasses. I'm going to add some little florals and my little shrubs with the purple. So let's do this one first. And I'm just going to ink this in the green. Actually, you know what? Maybe I should ink that in the brown. No, let's do it in the green. Let's do it in the green. And I'm just going to kind of stamp this over the top and maybe lean it a little bit like this. And this one now, this one is a little bit farther back, so I'm not going to use the whole thing. I'm just going to use maybe this part. So it looks like it's not quite as tall as this one. And we could even just take part of this and maybe stamp in just a couple more in this area. And you can see that I'm concentrating the color where it's light. So I'm not trying to stamp here where it would be over this little structure and I'd be fighting all these colors. I'm stamping it over here where it's pretty light. So I can add the florals in and I'm not going to be fighting, be able to see that really pretty purple. So here's my little leaves and I'm just inking the leaf part. And you can, you know, put as much of this in as you want. And maybe a few down here. And then just add a little bit of water. You know, these details are so tiny, so you're just softening them. Just softening them so they look like a watercolor. Okay, so let's add some more grasses in here. And I'm going to take that the darker green. So this is the warmer green. And I'm just going to kind of add some grasses in between these rocks. Same over here. You can do the same. Maybe growing some in here. Down in here. You can do as much of this as you want. And then this is where I put the little red flowers. So you can take these little guys now. And you could add just a few of these in. And just tap them in as many, you know, as you want. You don't have to have tons. And then let's just grow some up over the hill. And then add water. Just tap it. It just kind of, it changes the shape a little bit and it kind of, you know, brightens the color. And let's see, maybe we want to put a little of this purple maybe in the background here, just really tiny. Just the idea of it. And then we'll blend most of it out. Because this would be so far in the background, you would not see the detail. Would just look like there's some little purple flowers growing way back here in the distance. And let's just put in our little path here. Kind of coming in from the door. And anything else that you want to put in here, you can. You can put some more of these little vines in. And we can actually use, this is that number 27. So we could use some of this in here. Maybe grow some of it up here. You know, down in here. But things don't have to just end. You can just kind of, you know, create everything as it comes forward. So think about things in a circle. And then just kind of drag everything out. Just soften it so that it kind of looks like it's just fading out. And actually we can take our little fine tip here. So this is the number 1. And maybe just do a little shadow here. And some of these little branches on here too. This little tiny branch or tiny brush is just works so well. And might as well just put another shadow under here so I can really darken that. Okay, you guys, I think we are finished with this. So one thing left to do, sign and date. And let me know if you would like to have this. And I will do a drawing in a couple of days and pick a winner and message you. So really dark here. You can see I'm really bringing this shadow out underneath these rocks. Go back in, see where you can darken things. And I'm using the blue. You could use the brown too, like we did on the other side. Anywhere that, you know, these cracks kind of come together and it would be really, really dark, do that. So let me hold this up so you guys can see. Anybody have any questions? I'm going to switch the camera around now. Let me show you again these two sets. If you just came on, so this is the one we did. This is the brand. These are the brand new ones. This is the Rocky River. So this is the one we just did. We transformed it, completely transformed it. Here is the actual original, and you can see how that's changed just by adding all these little elements to it. It's just so fun. Just so fun. So this one is 5431 for you guys on Facebook right now, available. 5430, the Simple Scene Lake. And I will get to this one. So we did this one today, but I will get to the other one so that I can give you a tutorial on how to do that one. I'm going to switch my camera back so I can say hi to you guys again. Okay, and I'm back. I'm going to check the comments now and see if you guys have any questions on any of this whole process. Any rocks, you're going to kind of do the same way. So just because it's a new release and a new stamp, rocks like that, you're going to stamp them the same way. The same accent grasses, same structures. It's all the same, you guys. You can do this. Love watching that last minute thing you did that creates so much dimension. It does. Anytime you can get a dark with a light, you know, where you can get that dark into the crevices, make sure you leave the highlight on the top. There you go again with the light and the dark. And that's what gives you something that's rounded and contoured and three-dimensional. Otherwise, if it's all the same, it's flat. It's flat and you just can't fix it. Can't fix it. I'm mesmerized watching this. Elizabeth, it is so fun. You need to try it if you haven't tried it. Start out simple and you'll be amazed. You really will. It's just a matter of a few little rules. Nicole, hi. Terry, you make it look so easy. It honestly is. You know, nothing is foolproof, and a little bit of practice will take you a long way. Start out with a small element, stamp the rocks over a ton of times, and just play with that. Add a little color to it, add a little water to it, leave those shadows. What were the stamps you used for the trees in the background? Let me show you that again. Let me show you exactly what I used. So it's the one from the last release. It's 5372. It's this little mini foliage set. So this one right here, and I used the two trees and then this single foliage right here. This little guy, it just works like a dream. Stamp it a couple of times and you got an instant tree. Just so fun. Hello from Lake Elsinore. Hello. You guys, pick me. Okay, you guys, I'm going to put the names in a pot and I will choose a winner. Tony Woods, thank you thank you so much. Tony, that's so kind. I love what I do, you guys. I love what I get to do. I'm so thankful and so blessed to be able to do this. And I cannot believe what people are doing with this craft. It is amazing. You guys never thought you were artists, and you are. You are doing amazing work. If you're not on the Art Impressions group, now this is a private group, so you have to request to join, but Carla and Ruth Ann, they are amazing, and this group is full of Art Impressions fans. So it's called the Art Impressions Stamp Group on Facebook, and you do have to request to join, but holy cow, are these people talented. Watercolorists, and the most creative, imaginative combinations of stamping. It is just, they inspire each other, and they're really super supportive. So if you need more inspiration, check them out. Also check out YouTube. This tutorial will be on YouTube. And check me out on Instagram, Bonnie Krebs Bible Journaling. You can do all of this in a journal or in your Bible. You just need to prep your page first. So I do a lot with that on Instagram. So check that out too. Of course, Pinterest, and we're all over the place. Our Instagram, the Art Impressions Instagram. Yes, everyone is so wonderful and encouraging. They are. It is an incredible group. I think they have, I don't know, is it 2,500 now on that group? So it's just growing like crazy, but these people all, most of them are watercolor. There are other things too, other Art Impression stamp, sets and projects and stuff too, but I would say the majority is watercolor, and wow, are they good. Amazing. Will you be creating a 2021 watercolor special edition set, Misty? Yes. I am going to do that. So you will get more information on that coming up. So be sure that you have signed up for our newsletter so that you can get a heads up on that. But yes, because we have not been to a show this year again, and some people are collecting these sets, so they have them from every year. So yes, I'm going to do that. I'm going to have a special edition, limited edition watercolor set that we will be releasing just for this year. Okay, anybody? Carolyn Baxter, yes. Carolyn Dunn, watercolor is my happy place. Carolyn is on that stamp group. She is amazing. And they're so encouraging, huh, Carolyn? This is an amazing group. It's a very unique group. So I get on there and snoop around and see what they're doing and comment sometimes, but I'm always blown away. Okay, you all, anybody have a last minute question or anything before I sign off? I'll see you again next Wednesday. And for another Wednesday Live, I'm going to be on every week for a while until we get through this new release, and I'm able to show you all of this new stuff. Now, if I'm not on Wednesday, then, when I'm on Wednesday, it will also go to YouTube. So everything will just head on over to YouTube, and you'll be able to watch it there too. And of course, it'll stay archived on here as well. Go to the website, get your little acrylics. If you don't have your acrylic squares, the 4x6 ones, and you want to use that, especially with these simple scenes, because in the upcoming tutorials, I'm going to use parts of them. So bits and pieces. So like this one, we can use parts of it. So you will want to use your positioner in the future with some of these. I think they're $2.75. Go to our website, in the watercolor section, and you'll be able to find that. Maybe somebody will post that link on here that's on, but those are available now. 4x6 little acrylic sheets that you can get now. Okay, Kathy, thanks Queen Bee. That's so funny, you guys. Thank you so much, you guys. I appreciate it so much. I will be back on next week with another cool project for you that I hope you love. So thanks for spending your Wednesday with me. I always look forward to it, and I'll see you next time.